Hey y'all, it's Erin, aka Grishno, and by the time this video goes live, I will be in my microeconomics 3-hour final. So, looking forward to that. Anyway, so finals are happening, and basically any time that I come on to YouTube and I talk about school and the fact that I'm going to a women's only college, I get a lot of questions about why women's colleges should exist. People question the validity of having a women's only educational space. It's been called on my channel. It's been called barbaric. It's been likened to the Dark Ages. Like there's been some really out there sorts of comparisons, and so I wanted to come on because it's finals and I'm thinking about this sort of thing, and talk about why it is that I want to go to a women's college. So there are a couple of different reasons. First I'm going to start off like there are three big problems with co-ed educational spaces, and this is anything from kindergarten all the way up to a PhD and beyond. So there's the issue of women's perceived dominance, which is where there may be a room that only has 1/3 women and 2/3 men. However, most of the men in that space are going to perceive that women were in the majority there. So they weren't. They were clearly less women. However, everyone sees it as dominating. There's other statistics as well that document like meetings in the workspace where a woman will talk during a meeting and she'll be perceived to have dominated that meeting. However, her male counterparts will have talked a lot more. So there's this idea that women need to be quiet, that they need to not be seen, and that if they are seen and if they're not quiet, that they're taking up too much space. This is a thing that exists. The sort of flip side to that is male dominance, right? So males are encouraged to be dominant. This is a thing that our society teaches them. You need to be aggressive, you need to be a winner. These are traits that are encouraged in men and discouraged at the same time in women. And the last thing, in school, and especially higher ed and high school, rape and sexual assault are incredibly prevalent. So there's statistics I've seen that have showed at least 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted during their time in college. 1 in 3. That's crazy. So, and if if you've been watching me for a long time, you know I worked in sexual assault prevention for several years in New York City. So this is an issue that is close to my heart. It is near and dear to me, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Like, what does this do when you are in the middle of a stressful semester or something, and all of a sudden you have to deal with being sexually assaulted, and the police won't take your case because they say that the school's going to handle it, and the school doesn't want to do anything because, oh, he's the star football player, and what if they lose the next match? Like, oh my goodness. Like, wow, this happens. This is a thing that happens in our country, in higher education, and it's appalling. So, a little bit of history about women's colleges. So, there's the Ivy League, right? These like the Harvard, the Yale. I don't know all of them, but basically there were 7 Ivy League colleges, and back in the day they were male only. Of course, because education was an exclusive system. So they said, women, A, you don't get to vote, and B, we're not going to educate you because your place is in the home. So get out. And out of this system of discrimination and pushing women out, arose the Seven Sisters, which are 7 prestigious women's colleges along the East Coast, and each sort of matches up with one of the Ivy League schools. So there would be like cross school dances and things like that, and they still do it. There's still a lot of these traditions that date all the way back. But it was a radical idea then, and it's a radical idea now to educate women. And so, as a lot of these, as all of the Ivy League schools have gone co-ed, a lot of the Seven Sisters have as well, but some of them have refused to go co-ed. And there's reasons, and that gets to the problems that I mentioned earlier. So if you don't know, I'm a public policy major, so we like to make matrices and things like that. So I made a matrix about what's going on here. So when you look at problem 1, the perceived dominance of women, basically this gives women less opportunity, which means less pay and lower positions in the future. When you look at male dominance, it means less opportunity on an individual basis for women, which leads to a culture of silence. And when you look at rape and sexual assault on co-ed colleges, it leads to trauma, and that leads to mental and physical harm. These are the results. This is the impact of these problems on women in co-ed spaces. So what's the impact for men in co-ed spaces? All right, so women's perceived dominance. Basically, that means more opportunity for men on a systemic level. Like, you're going to get called on more because those women are perceived to be dominating the space, and we can't have that. When it comes to male dominance, you're going to get more opportunity on an individual level. You're going to be encouraged in a way that women aren't. And when it comes to rape and sexual assault, well, you're probably going to get away with it. So, when you look at the long-term impact of this perpetuates male privilege and economic advantage. It is the systemic oppression of women through education and through the perpetuation of these problems that exist. So what happens when we take out the co-ed part and we look at women in a mono-ed sort of environment? So women's perceived dominance. This is encouraged. We flip it around, right? So it was this negative, and now we are actually encouraging it. We are saying, yes, take up space. You deserve this space. Be aggressive. You can do it. This is incredible. It leads to an increase in opportunity at the systemic and the individual level. When you look at male dominance, it just simply doesn't exist on this level. It also leads to less distraction, less oppression. And when you look at rape and sexual assault, well, these may not be non-existent. The stats that I've seen are less than 1 in 100. And as you remember earlier, in co-ed spaces, it's 1 in 3. We've significantly reduced this to less than 1 in 100. That's incredible. That's important. That's powerful. When you look at the long-term impacts of this, we see stronger, more confident women with better economic outcomes. There is no doubt about this. When you look at the number of senators and U.S. representatives who are women who have come from women's schools, for women, there's higher graduation rates, there's higher retention in college, there's less dropping out, there's more safety because there's not that fear of being raped. There's better health outcomes mentally and physically because you're not being raped or sexually assaulted. It's incredibly important to have these spaces. It's incredibly relevant. And at the same time, it's so controversial for some reason. I don't understand why this is so controversial when this is something that is so powerful and so important to the empowerment of women. And maybe it's that it subverts the idea that when we bring everyone together that all of a sudden everything's better, right? Like, oh, we made these schools co-ed, so everything's fixed, haha. And so that's not the case, actually. And women's colleges point that out. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I wanted to come on today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I have a little bit more energy than last week. Last week I was really out of it. I apologize. But I hope you enjoyed the video today. I'd love to hear your ideas on women's colleges, why they're important, or maybe like things that aren't on this list that, maybe you have other things that I didn't mention. Like, bring them up down below. Let's hear it. Put a comment down below. Hit the like button if you like the video, and remember to subscribe if you'd like to see more from the channel and all the different things. And thanks so much for watching, and I'm Grishno. I'll see you next time.